Tell me about the term brainwashing.
Brainwashing is really all the things that we've been talking about: belief change, behavioural change, without consent of the person that you're working with.
I have to say, in advance, I've watched on the news, especially Fox News, people accusing Barack Obama of brainwashing the nation, things like this. Can you just clarify to me that is both, well, either completely impossible or very, very, very improbable?
An interesting discussion. It's let's stick with the black and white, shall we? I'd say that as far as I'm aware, that's not what he's doing. As human beings, we influence each other all the time. We do, by our actions, impact people's behaviours. By our own thoughts and attitudes, we affect people's beliefs. So yes, as a part of life, we cannot not change or impact the people around us.
So everybody that communicates with each other is, in a sense, partaking in a very minor form of hypnosis to each other.
Oh, absolutely. Well, no, we all use hypnosis. I think I go on, hypnosis is a natural thing. We use it all the time, whether we use it or we don't use it. And by definition, hypnosis is about good communication. Anybody that is a good communicator may or may not have been taught hypnotic type techniques, but they are using them because that's what good communication is.
Could you just expand a little bit on the term persuasion? Because as I understand NLP and persuasion itself, it's not forcing somebody to do anything. It's rather suggesting in the most positive and beneficial way to go in a direction.
I think we get into lovely definitions if we've been talking about this thing. I think I'll stick to what I know and my own beliefs about it. If I'm working with somebody, I will only work with them if they want to be worked with, that I am comfortable that what they want is good for them and is okay for the world around them. Within that constraint, I will do anything reasonable to help them get it. Okay, I think you cannot answer these sorts of questions, like the brainwashing one, these sorts of questions without coming into ethics and some very, very interesting ideas. I think it gives me an excuse to say that my view on this is that if you do things that are not in people's interests in the longer term, then they will get back at you. And if you have the purpose of learning these techniques, these approaches, is that we become genuinely good at helping people achieve what they want. If we have this ability, there is no point in getting people to do things that are not useful to them, because in the end they're going to find out and they're going to get back at us. So my view is, I would rather have lots of people around that say, yeah, it might help me achieve something, rather than people saying, might got me to do something that I didn't want to do. So I actually think that as you explore this stuff, you will become more influential, and therefore you actually have a responsibility of how you use this stuff.
But people always have the, one of my problems with the term brainwashing, and when people use it, they are making a rather cynical presupposition that people are sheep. That it almost suggests that people don't have any free will when somebody influential.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Although you can take extreme situations, allegedly what people
absolutely.
do with prisoners of war and sleep deprivation and all that sort of stuff.
That is the actual language involved there. It's not about casual communication between words. That's about establishing an anchor via sleep deprivation, via torture, via social means, and things like that, which you clearly couldn't put into a sentence with quite the same impact. But no. So we're established that brainwashing, not a particularly helpful word in many situations, but there are instances where it does occur, but it's just not very.
Yeah, and I think I go back to me. It comes back to that: the better you get at this stuff, the better you get at influence, you actually have a responsibility to help people, and you're a mug if you don't, because it will rebound on you.
Yeah.
And that's not even in a way not being moral. That's me being very, very practical.
Mm.
And I have a gentle caution, not a huge caution, but I have a gentle caution about people that rush into NLP because they want to get other people to do things, because they're following they're following a track where, in the end, they may end up doing themselves some harm. Don't want to over-egg it, because a lot of people start using NLP for what I would call the wrong reason, but actually begin to work out what it's all about and actually start using it for the right reason. So I would say it's a gentle caution, because my view is the best place to start is with yourself, and when you've learnt and you found out that this sort of stuff actually helps you as a person, then you're far better at using it to help everybody else. In a way, the way you influence people is by starting on yourself.
And I suppose if you have insincere objectives, that will come across in the way that you're talking, in the way that you're presenting yourself, and people will just switch off completely.
I think we're far wiser. I think we have grown, for all very sensible reasons, to be far more intuitive when people are lying.
One of the things that I brought up in my article, the one I was writing about, the people claiming that Barack Obama was brainwashing people, etc. I mentioned that in advertising they pull out every trick in the bag.
Yes.
You know, they try everything, slogans, rhymes, the pacing, and everything in adverts. Millions and millions of pounds is spent on getting things exactly as they want and exactly as they've tested on people it should work, and then they play it to you again and again and again, so that it has the repetitive effect. But I think we've become quite desensitized to methods like that. Maybe we do have the information in our heads, but I have no urge to run out and buy a Pizza Hut pizza or anything like that. So I do think, in some senses, we've become quite desensitized to it, because the amount of technology that we have screaming messages at us, we've learned to block it out.
Absolutely right. And I think we've become wise to test people's congruence. And in essence, though, what I find interesting with the sort of stuff we're doing, if you are doing something that is genuine in somebody's interests, then they will tend to lower the barriers. And there's a catch. There's a cost to having barriers. It's like if somebody says, no, none of this is true, I'm not going to get involved in it. They're cutting themselves off from learning. If they're too open, then they're allowing themselves potentially to be misinfluenced and people to rip them off. On the other hand, if you go from one extreme to the other, then they're almost saying, I'm not going to learn anything, I'm going to be stuck as a human being. And the fascinating thing is coming up with a balance. But for a practitioner of this sort of stuff, I will be much more effective if I'm working in your interest.
Well, they also say as well that the best leaders lead by example.
Absolutely.
And if you're congruent and if you make sense, you're not directly trying to lead people as such. I mean, you may be in a position where you're trying to lead people, but it's what you are as a person that attracts people rather than you forcing people.
I agree.